Good morning and happy Thursday. I almost said Tuesday. We are here for another episode of Entrepreneurs Unplugged as we get to talk to various women in business about business and life and all the things and trying to make sense of it all. I am Tanisha Stallnaker, CEO of SVS. We are your go to for back end technical and creative support for business owners. And I am super excited because my guest today is not just a guest, but she's also a client of SVS. And so I want to introduce Kaaryn Nailor. But before I do, as we always have to do, we have to take care of the technical things. And so let me make sure that we are, in fact, live every place that we're supposed to be live. So let's see, we are live on TikTok. I can see us. Yay. We are probably live on Facebook, although Facebook's funny thing is that when we do lives, I have to change the privacy because nobody can see it but me. And I can't fix it in real life. Like I can't fix it until it's happening. So I'm like, that's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. So discard, change privacy. So every time it's like people are like, I wanted to see your live on Facebook, but I couldn't. I was like, well, I couldn't either. So, all right. So hopefully you guys can see us. And let's see, we are, I'm sure YouTube is my fave because I never have to check YouTube. YouTube always cooperates. It does all the things it's supposed to do. And let's see, LinkedIn is being wonky. So that's good. That's fun. All right. So we're live in some of the places. So today we are live on Instagram. We are live on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, but not LinkedIn.
Okay.
So sorry for all those people on LinkedIn that I invited. But I want to introduce Kaaryn. Kaaryn Nailor is amazing, amazing, amazing. You've been with SVS for, is it a year?
Almost a year, yeah.
So introduce yourself and tell the people about you.
Okay, my name is Kaaryn Nailor. I am a business coach, although lately I've also been doing a lot of career coaching. There's so much transition going on right now that people are trying to figure out kind of what they want to do, where they want to be, how they want to make money, how they want to live their lives. But I specifically really love working with clients that are creating lifestyle businesses that are focused on kind of not only how they're going to make money with their business, but how they're going to live an amazing life running their business. Before doing this, and I've been doing this for about a year full time, but about 2 years prior, while I worked at a very well-known Ivy League university as a dean at the business school. And before that, I was a lawyer. I've done quite a few different things. But I always want to say that I've been working with entrepreneurs for at least 20 years. And I've always been really, really excited about protecting people's ideas, protecting their lifestyle, ensuring that that they become profitable, and releasing stress while doing it. And we'll talk about that. I'm excited to be here and talk today. Thanks, Tanisha.
I muted myself and I'm just talking away. I was also making sure that the privacy and stuff was straight on Facebook. And Facebook is being a tiny bit wonky with that, but we will make sure that we get that taken care of. Anyway, I will probably duplicate this live just so that people can like really see it. And let's see what's happening here. I'm gonna paste this. I think that it's gonna be time to change some tech around. So, but anyway, all right. So now I know for the fact people can see it on Facebook because I reposted it. Anyway, so you chose the topic. It's, in full disclosure, a very popular topic, but I like it because I could say our top two topics are this one and then time management, but it doesn't bother me because everybody has different perspectives on what the approach is. And so you selected stress management and burnout prevention. As somebody who tends to burn out the most during the summer, I appreciate the topic because I feel like it could be a use case. But anyway, why did you pick this topic? Why was it important to you?
Well, it's funny because I also was deciding between this topic and the other one, the time management. But I know, when I work with clients, I provide a lot of time management tools, some of which, people can find own. But being able to really get people in the headspace of stress management and ensuring that they don't burn out is really kind of what I enjoy doing, and what I think coaches are really helpful with. One of the things that's kind of popping up today, of course, with everyone is AI. Like,
Yeah.
oh, AI is a great tool, and AI can help you come up with, some time management ideas. But when it comes to real stress prevention, like the actual psychology of like what's hitting you at a specific point in time, I thought that would be the most helpful topic for me to cover today.
Okay. So, where would you like to dive in first?
Um, what I find, and it's funny because one of your other topics was about like finances, right? Because entrepreneurs are always looking at cash flow. Like that's like the number one. How's the money coming in, going out? I mean, I'm an entrepreneur myself, constantly thinking about it. Um, and one of the things that I find with my clients that I've been finding for years is that one of the biggest challenges is they try to do everything on their own, right? And you and I have spoken about this a million times. Like when I decided, okay, I'm making the leap towards entrepreneurship after teaching entrepreneurs for years, I knew that I didn't want to get stuck thinking that I could do everything on my own. And that's why I hired you and I hired your team like immediately, because I was like, I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. And your team is good at the things that I hired them to do. And I'm good at the things that I chose to go into this business to do.
Yeah.
And so I think, one of the first places to start is really doing a personal inventory of like, for any entrepreneur, why are you doing this? Why have you decided that you want to be your own boss, be in charge not only of your schedule, but possibly manage other people eventually? Have to kind of be the cook, bottle washer, everything for a company, at least for a while. And how can you utilize your resources in a more effective way so that you're always enjoying the business that you created? One of the challenges that I've seen with so many clients is that after busting their ass for a year or two, they absolutely hate
Yeah.
doing this. When we say, well, what is it? Oh, I hate doing this and that. I'm like, okay, would you take a pay cut in order to enjoy doing this? Because taking that pay cut and outsourcing things will actually um, allow for the longevity of the business. It will ensure that you are more creative, you're thinking more creatively, you're connecting more with your clients or customers, and you actually end up making more money that way.
Yeah.
And so kind of coaching people through that idea, kind of, especially once they're already in it. Because, like those first couple of years, like you're in a scarcity mindset. You're like, oh, I've gone from like getting some sort of salary to not,
Yeah.
and you're telling me now to cut it and like trust. And it's like, yeah, you do have to trust the process. And so that's really kind of what I do when I start working with clients, to move them towards like, you set this path, now trust the process.
So, okay, couple things. One, hot flash. So let's just be honest. And you've worked with me enough to did you know that this is out of nowhere? And as I'm looking on TikTok and seeing the interaction, that's pretty funny too. Anyway, so hopefully you guys can't hear that I just jacked the fan up so that I can really blow some air into my face until this passes. But it wouldn't be me. That's why I called it Entrepreneur Unplugged, because shit happens and the business keeps going. But one, I appreciated with you when you came to us that you were starting like from the ground up and knew upfront, this is what I know really well how to do. And I could probably do these other things, but it's not going to be the best use of my time. And I would say that we get clients like you like 1 in 100 times. um, Most of our clients come to us where they're stressed and they hate the business and they hate large parts of it and they're ready to just burn the whole thing down. And we're like catching them and trying to bring them back into the point of enjoying the business and being able to sit in the things that they do really well and give us the other things that we do really well. So I appreciated that you recognized upfront this, adding this to your plate or adding this to my plate when I start my business is not going to serve me and is not going to, help me. But with that, I'm curious with your clients, especially those that you're coaching, how often are they like, yes, you're absolutely right, let me just do that, versus the pushback?
There's more pushback, but also I am in the same position that you are. It's always funny because, like I said, I've been doing this for years. And I used to teach, as I mentioned, I would teach at the business school, like how to start a business, like really from scratch, like coming up with your idea, like focusing on it, like putting everything together. And I would get those clients who were really just students, and maybe like 1 in 3 would actually start a business. But then when people actually would come for one-to-one help, they were in crisis, right? It's like, well, I shouldn't say that. They were at 2 points. Either they were in crisis or they were ready to grow.
Okay.
And so those inflection points were what I got more often. Either way, whether you're in crisis or you're ready to grow, there has to be certain infrastructure that goes beyond you. And because I've worked with those clients, that's how I kind of knew, all right, I will spend more money and spin my wheels more if I try to learn things that realistically I can just outsource. Like I don't need to learn these things. Um, and even now, I mean, there's sometimes, I work with your team and they're like, do more social media. And I'm like, I just don't, like, that's not my thing. Um, and
Sorry,
and
Amy.
so it's hard. Sorry, Amy. I know. I mean, it's hard, just because it's not a comfortable space for me. But that's where it's like, okay, we have to be creative. We have to come up with other solutions. And I think that's what I want business owners to understand the most is when all is said and done, the reason you started the business was so that you could have freedom, you could be flexible, you could be creative. And the ways in which other people are running their businesses may not be the right way for you. And so
Yeah.
you have to kind of really think through, where do I feel most comfortable? How can I, utilize my comfort and like make it work for me? How can I stretch myself where I want to be stretched? Um, and focus on my strengths. When I coach, I do really coach from a strengths perspective. Like we do an assessment very early on what are people's strengths and applying those strengths to areas where they may not feel as comfortable or where we can say, time to outsource.
Yeah. And just so everybody knows, if you see me looking around, it's just because I'm checking for comments. Some of them will come up on the screen and some of them will not. And so I just like to be mindful, because I think the last couple of lives, I just assumed that the things would pop up. And then there were all these comments after the facts. And I was like, oops, sorry. So I'm getting better, kind of. And I'm trying to make sure I'm staying mindful here. Okay. So, when it comes to the stress prevention and burnout, from your experience, especially when you're teaching people how to run a business, um, aside from the scarcity mindset stress that happens in the beginning, when do you see or tend to find people hit the burnout side of things? At what stage or what pay? Like, so I can say for myself, I know based on my life outside of business and at this point going into year 6, 7 or whatever, I've paid attention to kind of our ebbs and flows, not just mine, but the team as well. Like when school's starting and we have some moms on the team, we have some women on the team that are in different countries. And so I've kind of learned with each country, their season might not be the same as our seasons. And so there might be some environmental differences and things like that. But so all of us have those ebbs and flows. But I've learned that, like I said, this time of year is the time of year where if I'm going to burn out, it's going to be now, because it's so many things happening all over the place. Like right this second, as an example, um, between summer swim, year-round swim, the business, um, menopause, planning a quinceanera, it's 1,000 degrees outside. It's 1,000 degrees inside. you know and then also just trying to remember to like drink my water, be healthy, mind my business. So it's where I'm most likely to potentially drop a ball, forget something, or whatever. But it took a few painful years to figure out, like, because I'm stubborn, and it was like, oh no, I can make this better next summer, and it didn't get better. And then it was like, I can make it better the next summer, and it didn't get better. So now it's like, summer's coming, listen. I'm going to try to make it better, but the odds are not in your favor. So like, if you want to see me shine, catch me like mid-fall, because that's where I'm back. But I guess for other clients, and dare I say, I guess students, when you were at the university, that you were working with, when do you find it, or is there kind of a trend of when people are most likely to burn
out? Yeah, I mean, all the things that you said kind of happen at the same, like when there's a crisis, like, and you just listed about 6 of them, and all happening at the same time, people are likely to burn out. I think we've all, like, this is the one blessing that I will say about that pandemic, is it offered everyone a reality check on, like, this idea that you have to constantly push in order to get stuff done. We saw that when, the whole world kind of had to slow down, that like everyone still got fed. There was still toilet paper available to purchase. Remember that, the paper towels. And so you kind of put it in that perspective. I think that, that there has been a reimagining. There's also, and you mentioned kind of the menopause, I think there's a generational thing to this also. If you are 40 or over, then you were raised to push all the time. Push. And now our younger sisters and our daughters are like, that's not the way we're going to live our lives, right? And part of it, I think, for them is that, and boys also, is that they were overprogrammed from birth, and they're like, we're not doing this anymore. And so I think we need to learn a little bit more from them about, like, when to push, when not to push, like when to, chill out, when to, like, connect with other people.
Yeah.
That's kind of just on a, on a larger setting. What I see in terms of, like, business owners that are pushing and burning out is they usually are not using their data as effectively and their resources as effectively. As you noted, since you've run your business, you've always looked at data. Data has to drive decisions. Once you get your data, like, there's going to be some guts that, you'd be like, okay, like, I have 2 choices. I'm looking at this data. One says to grow. The other one says to, like, continue with, this offering or that offering. Some of it is kind of, like saying, okay, you know what? My gut tells me this. But so many people don't even gather that data. Like, they're not looking at the data. They're just looking at money that's going in and money that's going out, and hoping that the money that goes out is a little bit less than the money coming in. And so, so again, like, one of the biggest challenges that I've always seen with clients, and I used to tell people this all the time. I'm like, you have to learn to count money if you want to make money. Like, you have to be comfortable with your numbers. You don't have to be a whiz at finances, but you have to, at the very least, hire someone
Yeah.
who can do it and know how to supervise them, know what questions to ask, and feel comfortable with saying, I don't understand, can you explain more? That's part of managing. Like, you're not hiring someone who can do what you can do. You're hiring someone who can do something that you can't do, or that it doesn't make sense for you to use your resources doing. So if you're hiring for excellence, be comfortable that you should feel, you should ask questions
Yeah.
um, about everything, because if you knew everything, you wouldn't need to run a business. Like, you would already have all the money you need, like
Yeah.
you would have the lifestyle you need. But yeah, I find that people are very uncomfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable, and a lot of it is just, recognizing, like, you're not going to grow if you're not willing to be a little uncomfortable and ask questions, and and dare I say it, like, not know the answers.
Yeah. I love the idea of reminding people to ask questions of whoever they've outsourced or the experts that they've hired, for a couple of reasons. One, um, if I think this, the financial part of it, I think in addition to asking questions and being uncomfortable, I would also say be okay with letting them go if they don't feel right after a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, nothing feels right. It's uncomfortable. You got another person in your face. They're asking for information that you already were uncomfortable talking about in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But as you get to know them and start to form that relationship, if 6 months in you're still not getting the answers that make you feel better, or at least make you feel like you have a handle on things, be okay letting it go. Because I've had to do that. And it was like, well, this is a CPA. They're supposed to know like all the things. And I think when I was like, it's been a few months and everything, and I'm looking for some more strategies when it comes to, bringing in higher profits and things like that. And their answer was, well, just charge, you're going to have to make more money.
Right.
Well, dear sir, thank you. Where would I have been without you? Why
Mm-hmm.
didn't I think of that? And it was just like, okay. And I think I might have asked it a couple of different ways for a few more months. And then they debated me on something that I actually did know, which is some of our state tax stuff. And I was like, no, in this state, you can write this off. And they're like, no, you can't. I'm like, well, I mean, I have for some years now and I'm not in prison. So, I mean, I feel confident I'm right. And they were like, no, no. And they were wrong. So at that point, I was just like, okay, this is not the fit. And I wish them well, and we're gonna just kind of move on and part ways. So be okay parting ways, not because the person's still not maybe an expert, but they might not be the expert you need. Because even for us, especially in the beginning, when I was first starting like the team or the agency that I didn't think I was ever going to start, um, you know, I would be amazed when somebody would be like, "All right, well, the contract's over. Thanks, bye." And I'm like, that's it. And then when I would ask them for feedback, they were like, well, I didn't understand this and I didn't understand this, but they never asked. They always just sat in the meeting and it was just like, oh, this is great. Thanks. This is great. Thanks. And I'm like, well, we didn't want you to hire us just so you could tell us yes, meaning no. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you're not happy or if you don't understand something or if you're frustrated or if you're overwhelmed, call it out because we can't fix, the thing that we didn't know. So I think that's very important. I think it's very important to even be okay pushing back. Because otherwise you just hired an expert that probably can be amazing, but you're still going to be walking around stressed out because you're not letting go of the unknown stress that you're carrying around. Some people, I think, get stressed out about the idea of hurting someone's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And in business, not to say you don't have feelings, but feelings can't be the reason you don't make money,
Right.
you know? Um, and then there was another point, and of course I've forgotten it, but it'll come back to me probably, I don't know, in about 2 hours when we're not in this conversation anymore. So, although there was one point I was like, did she just accidentally say that my life is basically crisis? Because there's always, I was like, when you find out that your real life is called a crisis. But it's okay. No, no, no. I don't even, it doesn't even bother me because it's like the pandemic when they were like, somebody was like, there was some meme that people kept sending me that it was like when you found out your real life was called pandemic. Because I was like, I've been sitting in the house for years and I've been ordering things for delivery for years. And I already don't like leaving the house. And so nothing for me, not to say that nothing changed, but when it came to the day-to-day life, take the stress of like the pandemic and politics and all that out of it, my life really didn't change much as far as my day-to-day. So I was like, somebody's like, oh, this is all you. I was like, when you found out your real life was called pandemic. And I was like, I mean, when you put it that way, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
But for that reason though, the pandemic didn't slow me down, because I was working right up until the pandemic, and then I got laid off, and I was like, all right, well, in January, I'm going to launch a business, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's going to be a business, and it's going to be a thing. And then the pandemic happened, and it was like, well, shit.
Mm-hmm.
But what I learned was I'm very good at pivoting when needed, and I'm also good at I was good at helping everyone else whose businesses had been in person where they were like freaking out to be like, hey, online's not that bad. Come on over. Let me show you how to do it. So that's actually what saved the business in the beginning, was being able to have that accidental knowledge, although I still kick myself for not investing in Zoom stock, but that's a side note. But so for me, it was a push of I need to get more clients like this.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I see in reaction to the pandemic passing, and I say that very lightly because there's still there's a lot of residual in the world now from that couple of years, but in the business world, the residual is in many cases a paranoia slash distrust in hiring an expert, coupled with AI. So to your point in the very beginning about AI being a thing, now it's like, I've had people say, if I hire you, is it going to be you or is it going to be AI?
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I mean, it's a fair question. And it's a three-part answer. Part of it's like, well, even if it is, a human still had to put the prompt in and know what to ask to get the right information for you. So at the end of the day, if it works for your business, it makes you money, doesn't matter. But I get it. Not everybody's comfortable with it. So I'm like, if it is, we'll tell you. Like right now we're testing out writing website copy using AI. Because you could do that and pay us a lower amount because it's something that we're testing. Or we can go ahead and partner with our, human copywriter, and it's going to add a significant amount. And it's not to say we still won't use the human copywriter, but at least for these first couple of clients whose budgets are tight and they're not AI averse, we're going to test it with them. But I've had people ask it for graphics and everything. And then I've had people say, well, I could put this in AI and it'll tell me how to do it myself. Cool. Y'all have fun, and if you get stuck, call me back. But if we're not arguing with you. You can use AI however you like. But there's also a mistrust because during the pandemic, everybody became a business owner and everybody was a coach and everybody was a consultant and everybody was an expert, and 90% of them weren't. And like a good portion of them have already gone back to work quietly. They didn't even say anything. They just disappeared from being online. They were in your face and then out of your face after they've made all this money, and then they ran back to work. And so now where people could make a decision comfortably in one or two discussions, now it's like, let me think about it. Where the sales cycle for our business that used to be a week to 2 weeks is now like 2 to 3 months. And so I find it with the colleagues and friends that I've made over the years. So that has been a different type of stress where it's like, I feel confident that as long as I continue to follow up, they're going to be a client. But I no longer can kind of gauge when that's going to happen, when they're actually going to like feel enough trust and confidence to say, yes, I'm ready. And so that's been a different layer this year. Each year it's something. Each year is a theme. And that's the theme of this year, is just that hesitation because of past negative experiences that we had nothing to do with, but we experienced also. So I get it, so being able to say, hey, I mean, financially, yes, for our books, we do need people to move a little faster, but at the same time, I get why you don't. Because I don't anymore. I'm very careful and I vet and all of those things. And so it's definitely formed a different type of stress where I start to see people going backwards in the, well, I'll just do it myself type thing.
Well, and I think the question becomes, well, how effective is that? Like, I use AI every day, like as an amazing, like, I think it's an amazing tool.
Yeah.
However, it's a tool and it is fallible. Just as when we got onto this Restream, You're like, okay, this is working, this isn't working, this is working, this isn't. I mean, it's like what keeps happening is that the technology is advancing, but then, and the people who are programming the technology are like continuing to focus on what's the next thing, what's the next thing. But there's no actual correction for like the things that are going wrong. Like, I'm in my car. My car is now like fully computerized. I'm like, it's a 2024, very expensive, like foreign car. And I'm like, why isn't the radio working? The radio's like little things were like I had to drive for like 2 hours each way, and like the navigation system was down and the radio wasn't working, and it was because it was rebooting, and then and I'm just like, okay, so like the car can basically drive itself, but I can't hear the radio. Like, and we're not talking, like any app. We're talking like pure FM radio not working. So, so humans are not being replaced. Like, and I am like, for me, the Terminator is like the ultimate horror movie, but humans are not being replaced. Even AI, it's a great tool. It will like get you answers much more quickly than like search engines. Like, it can like handle complex data, but you still have to read it. That's the other thing that I'm finding is no one wants to read, right? Like no one wants to read anything. So
no, we all want the quick answers, and we're going to, cross our fingers and hope like hell that it's right.
So you could put in anything into AI, but then you're not going to read it. So anyone's saying like, oh, well, AI could do it. Okay. Are you actually going to read whatever the answer was? That's another thing. And so I think at the same time, like people are looking for more shortcuts, and they should look for more shortcuts. But there's a certain point where they realize that like you have to have a human that's like focused on whatever the task is.
Yeah.
And focused on ensuring that whatever answer AI spits out is actually an accurate answer. And that's where I see over the next few years, like, people kind of coming to terms, and employers coming to terms with this idea that like, oh, I guess we do need to hire people. I guess we do need to check
some
stuff.
people shortcut it ourselves. I've seen some people shortcut themselves right on out of business, or, because they've forgotten that they still have to like be in it.
Yeah.
And with AI, it's also only as accurate-ish as the human information that went into it in the first place.
Right.
I still have a comical reaction to AI images because I'm like, fingers and toes have put it literally, it just sends AI into a tailspin every time, where it's like, well, the first thing I look at is the fingers and toes. And when I see 6 or 7, I'm like, okay, well,
yeah,
we're okay from here up. And for whatever reason, it's still not figuring out human fingers and appendages. But, and, even with information, like I've asked AI about me, or tell me about me, tell me about the business. It has figured out my tone pretty well, but it's still like, I can tell that sometimes it's like, all right, you just put some words together that was like, that sounded positive, and it was like a lot of words that didn't say anything at the same time. And so I was like, all right, so you cheated, because I could have, my 14-year-old could have said that, So it was like, it's a lot of nothing at the same time. So, I always remind clients, it's okay to try it, because some of it can be very useful. Some of it can be very save time. I love it when it comes to taking the more repeatable tasks off the plate, meeting notes,
right,
and having some recaps and things like that. And again, still have to read it, because there's been plenty of times the recap missed some points that I actually did remember, and it's like, hold on, one of the biggest things we talked about was this, and it's not anywhere to be found. So there is still some big room for error if we get too lazy. You mentioned the Terminator, and I've joked about Skynet, maybe too much because now we're here, but Skynet is, the Terminator's one, but there's also a movie where, oh my goodness, I want to say Bruce Willis was in it, and people put these things on their heads, and they could imagine the world that they lived in, so I might have been like 600 pounds and bald in real life, but when I put the thing on, now I'm like 120 pounds and I'm a bikini model and I'm an action figure and I'm doing all these things and I have like this perfect life until I take the thing off my head and then I'm still,
Yeah.
400 pounds and bald. But even more than just the Skynet part, that's another thing where it's like, that's a whole nother nightmare, is where we get so reliant on technology in our business that we don't serve, and like we're too detached from like real life. So
Yeah. No, it's interesting you bring that up, because I like a few years ago, when I was still at the university, I was like really determined. I was like, oh, we've got to get VR headsets for everyone so that everyone understands this technology. And, and now no one's walking around with VR headsets. It's like AI is new, it's the hot thing. It's also imperfect. I have, in every room of my house, I have Alexa. And a couple days ago, I was like, Alexa, what was the movie, like 3 versions behind? And it was like giving me information from like 20 years ago. Like,
yeah,
you still need your brain. You still need to kind of, know context, know what's right, what isn't right. AI is great for, I think, editing stuff that you create. It's great for, coming up with ideas that then you can explore, but it's not replacing humans anytime soon. And in my business specifically, where, I'm coaching, like, that's one of the reasons why I kind of went from, the lawyer advisor to the coach, because I was like, all right, like, I can give you information,
yeah,
but I've got to actually, like, in order for you to make a behavioral shift, you need to connect with me. Like, we've got to actually move this conversation. And it's not just a one-time conversation. We're looking at like 6 months of sustained growth, where you're coming back to a human and you're saying, Kaaryn, I tried this and this happened. And, I don't know what to do about like this conversation that I had. And, like, that's where we kind of move from one place to transformation,
yeah.
of the human. It's not about, solving the problem. It's about the human learning how to move forward to get to a different place.
It's funny because you and I, our businesses definitely have some overlap, but then also a different approach. Because for you, it's the root, and mine is just to solve the problem. So, I mean, there's some root work in there, but not much. It's just like, I'm a fixer. Let's
Mm-hmm.
get to it and fix it and move on to the next thing and fix that too. So, kind of putting it all together. Um, and let me know if I'm wrong. Your approach when it comes to like stress management and burnout, is getting people to kind of self-evaluate
Mm-hmm.
themselves, but then also what their strengths are as it relates to their business, outsourcing or getting support
Mm-hmm.
for the things that they need to function in their business that they know they absolutely can't do or can't stand doing, coaching support, using external tools as it makes sense, like AI.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss anything?
No, I mean, it's still very much focused on the person and on like the individual, and recognizing that where they are session 1 is not going to be where they are session 3, just because time has changed. And I think that can be a little bit hinky with some of the, like, just solve the problem ideas. Because, and this, like, you really do have to say, okay, what is the plan? What is the objective? Where are we trying to go during the course of this engagement? Um, and I've had clients, I feel really bad for them. Like, one of their biggest challenges is that they are not outsourcing quickly enough, and then they just get the wrong people on the bus. You mentioned the CPA. I think this is where AI can actually be very, very helpful, is like, if someone understands, if they do kind of a personal inventory and then a business inventory, and they say, okay, these are the things that I need done, like throwing that into AI and saying, like, who do I need to hire? Like, you may not need a CPA, you may need a bookkeeper, you may need, a controller. Like, there are so many different titles. Understanding what roles
Yep.
there are in the functions that you need, and hiring people that are the right people for those roles and that connect with you, where you feel comfortable asking questions,
Yeah.
but you're asking them to people who are experts. I'll give an example. I worked with quite a few food businesses. I had
Mhm.
a contract, I had a relationship with Whole Foods, and we were incubating food businesses. And also worked with quite a few construction businesses. Um, I could not necessarily recommend the same CPA or bookkeeper, because they are very, very different business industries. Um, but this is where, also when we talk about stress and burnout, it's so important for entrepreneurs to maintain relationships with other entrepreneurs that are in their field, like, joining some of those associations, actually going to the meetings, like, especially now that they're online, kind of, getting recommendations for resources, and, like, not necessarily rushing through and choosing someone because this is the only one that I got the recommendation for. Like, a lot of this, kind of, back end work will actually save you money and time when you do it properly.
Doing it properly is definitely the catch, because um, to your example, similarly, even for a company like ours, where I see people ask the question of what's the best platform for my business, or what technology should I use, and you get 250 different answers, and I'm like cringing in my seat, because it's like, I don't know enough to answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
And but what I do know is that what people are going to do is they're going to scroll through those 250 answers and see which one came up the most, and then that's what they're going to go with. And then that's the client we end up getting, because now they're frustrated and they're like, all these people recommended this and I didn't like it. But it's like, well, what questions did they ask you before they gave you an answer? Like, I had somebody that was like, oh, somebody was a client of yours and they recommended I use HoneyBook. And I was like, okay, cool. What kind of business do you have? Like, I have a hair salon. I was like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, we could try it, but no. It would be more painful than needed. No, but she said that you set it up for her. Well, yeah, she has a consulting business and
Mm-hmm.
you have a salon. So we could set up the platform that is best for you, but it wouldn't be HoneyBook. And he was like, no, no, no. She said, and I was like, respectfully, she knows consulting and we know platforms and software, which is why she trusted us when we recommended HoneyBook. But that was not a one size fit all, because that doesn't make sense for your business.
Mm-hmm.
But humans, being what we are, that tends to frustrate people when they come saying this person said this, because they are thinking this is finally the moment I get the relief, and this
Right.
one thing I have to think about, and all is going to rewrite with the world. And here I come screwing it all up, saying, no, that's not the right one. But I can give you 52 reasons why it's not the right one, but you don't want to hear that. You want a quick answer so that you feel that you're going to feel better and not be so worried. And then, so there is something to be said as far as vetting the resources out there. But, you know, again, humans being humans, we tend to try to rush things just because we think it'll make it easier on us later, and it never does.
It doesn't. No, it really, I mean, the other thing that I find is, as I said, getting the wrong people on the bus is just,
It's a very expensive bus ride.
it's very expensive. You bring in a friend and, you're like, but I can't fire them because they're my friend. But you've now lost all of your employees and you're getting sued, and they've taken like your client list. Like, things like that happen.
Yeah.
And it's so unfortunate.
For the record, I can fire friends just fine. Friends, family. If it's not working, it's not working. I'm gonna still love you though, but not as part of the business.
Yeah.
But again, that goes to the whole self-awareness thing though.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always tell people, if you know that you're going to be that person that's going to hesitate because they're your friend, you probably shouldn't hire your friend.
Yeah.
Because
Well, and this is where it goes back to personal inventory. It's like,
yeah,
what are you strong at? Why are you doing this? I mean, that's the other thing. Like, because I used to get people all the time that were like, well, I'm starting a business so that I can give 10% to nonprofit. And I was like, that's not the reason you start a business. I was like, you start a business to make money. Um, and so if you have to have a profit motive to start a business, number one. You have to have a profit motive if you want to get a promotion at work. Like there has to be some goal
yeah,
involved, whether it is financial independence, whether it is contributing to your household, whether it is, whatever that is, like that has to be kind of the underpinning of business, period. What you do and how you make money, like those are the fun things, right? But the
they should.
goal has to be, okay, like I want to sell this many widgets or this many programs or packages, first year, second year, third year, like have to plan that stuff out. It's not always fun, it's not always sexy, but it's about making money. And then after you do that, after you figure out, well, what is the mission of the business? What is the mission statement? How do I ensure that all of my stakeholders know that this is what this business is? Then you can start looking at, do I have the right people on the bus? Are they capable of actually fulfilling the goals of this business or of the function that, doing the function that I'm hiring them for? And that's where the stress comes down, right? Like, because if you don't have that, you will lose your mind and you'll just be like hemorrhaging money also.
Yes, I've done that. Not now, but I have some stories. So, but that also came from the fact that the beginning of SVS as an agency was not a planned beginning. It happened to happen, and then by the time it really was like ramping up, I was like, wait a minute, where is all this money going, and why am I
Mm-hmm.
paying all this and all. So, but again, there was no plan,
Yeah.
and so that's where my lack of planning created a whole different emergency that I wasn't prepared for. But, you know, using my strengths, I was able to kind of get it back on track. And so thankfully, we've been able to keep that train rolling. But I definitely think when it comes to just stress management and all of it, of course, as we've said a few times, the self-actualization, self-awareness is going to be very important. That being said, I also realize that a lot of people are not very good at it, which is where coaching and things like that and that type of support definitely can make up for some shortcomings that many of us have when it comes to being able to look and turn the mirror to us to see where we are good and where we need some support.
Mm-hmm.
But then also when it comes to the actual business itself, having the right people in seats to
Yes.
take things off your plate. But then also just being honest, like, and at least for me, and I'm going to come at it from a different perspective, since I'm not a coach. I have coach-ish type ways, but like 10% of it. Otherwise, you go left, it'll save you some time. But I think that the other thing is being honest with the days or the weeks or whatever, where you're just like, hey, like for the summers, my goal each year now is to try to front load in the spring
Mm-hmm.
clients that'll coast us through the summer. So that way, on the weeks that I am like exhausted, this what I call hell week, which I'm toward the end of right now, where
Okay.
it's like from last Thursday to today, it's been Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, swim meet, Tuesday, Wednesday, different things, physical therapy appointments for the teenager who also swims too much. We have a swim meet tonight. It's a heat index of 105 degrees. We have quinceanera visits. All of these things are happening back to back to back to back to back. I know it's coming. So during those weeks, I've just made it okay that if my calendar is not slammed, like I had this call today, I had a call 2 days ago for an audit, and that's it for the week.
Mm.
And being okay and not stressing my week is not busy enough. Because the reality is, if I did have 6 appointments a day on top of all those other things, I probably would already go ahead and be in the hospital. So just being able to say, hey, right now, personal life is filling the cup.
Mm,
Business life is sitting here. The business is not going anywhere.
right.
And then there's going to be other times where business life is here and personal life is here, not because the family's not important. They just don't have that need right this second for me to be in it as much. I think
Hmm.
that the other part is just being able to be honest about where that balance is when it comes to you as an individual, the mom, wife, partner, business owner, manager, whatever the hat or the name is, being able to understand like what needs you more in that moment and being okay. Just like this time of year, I'm like, hey, I might not take a nap, but I'm just gonna sit down,
Yeah.
and sit away from my desk, sit outside, play with the dogs, do
Hmm.
something like that just to kind of decompress and being okay with the fact that it might happen at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it's interesting because I think the challenge is that, again, we don't communicate as much as we should, because if you're feeling that, then chances are everyone else is.
Yeah.
You know, and as I said, I mean, one of the great things about working at university was that, there are seasons. It's like in the fall, everything's going. In the spring, going. Summer, there's a lull.
Yep.
And, everywhere else really in the world, like summer, people take vacations. Summer, like things get, a little bit quieter. Um, and even like the emails, the messages that I've been sending out and getting back from people, it's like, okay, like I'm not expecting very much from
Yeah.
people in the summer because they're not focused. Like I think I just sent out an email. I was like, okay, like, time to start at least planning for the fall. I didn't say write a plan. It's like just in your head. Like what do you want to plan for? Plant some seeds, reach out to some people you haven't spoken to, say, hey, let's connect in a couple of weeks, right? Like
Yeah.
when you're available. It doesn't have to always be, on, like, people don't have to be on top of each other all the time. The work will get done. Um, and I think, like there's a reason we have 4 quarters, like, in the fiscal year, like, and it's important for everyone to really be restorative and recognize that, you, like, when you need to take a break, take the break.
Yeah.
And especially like I'm with you. I know I'm in New York, you're in Virginia. I'm like, it is hot. It is, no matter what. I'm like, oh, this country's hot. It's getting hotter. Like, thank
Yep.
God for AC. That's part of my gratitude journaling every day is the air conditioning.
Hmm. So it's funny you mentioned that, and it's a complete side note now because I'm off on a tangent before we end. But my husband's a police officer, as many people know, and for a couple weeks, it was just like very active couple of weeks.
Hmm.
And so he was like, there was a shooting. There was a guy on a bicycle at the gas station, and he shot a guy in the car. And that it was gassing up his car. My first question was like, why was a guy on a bicycle at the gas station? But that's a side note thing. And
Yeah.
he was just like, what is happening? Why is like people are just going crazy? I was like, it's hot,
It's hot. Yeah.
and there's so many ACs broken. Like the $1 billion aquatic facility that our daughter swims at, their AC is broken.
Oh my God. Okay.
So 3 days sitting on the second floor inside, filled with chlorine, and it was just like roasting. I mean, I should literally be 125 pounds right now.
Hmm. Yeah.
Of course not, but still, the way that heat was, it would have only been the fair outcome was for me to suddenly be in my ideal weight.
Yeah.
But you have that, and then economy and all of these things, and people are like snapping. they're they're hitting their final straw. Where it's like I can't take it anymore. And I was like, but the heat being what it is, tonight I guarantee I could, if I counted every time somebody said how hot it was, I'm gonna have some money by the end of the night.
Yeah.
Even though we know every summer
Yeah.
it's hot because
Yeah.
it's summer and we're
Yeah.
choosing to be outside,
Yeah.
like nutcases. So I'm like, we can't complain about the thing we signed up and paid money to do during the time of year that we know
Hmm.
it's going to be this way. So, I don't even bother talking about the heat because
Yeah.
it's
But I think, but to your point, because we know what it is, it's like that the summer is not the time to expect to go to conferences, like there's like,
Yeah, I'm not expecting you to invest money in launches and all that kind of stuff. For
you
me, and
yeah.
it's funny, I don't even vacation in the summer just because of swim. So we are more spring, fall vacationers when everybody else is home. But during the summer, what I have found with the team is that this is a time for us to internally plan, like, what are we going to offer next? Do we need to tweak anything? I mean, we do it at the end of the year as well, but it's like, do we have any small offers? Do we have some ideas that we want to launch in the fall when people are like turned back on again?
Yeah.
And so that's where I found that this is the way to kind of repurpose that time in this time of year to where there's still value that comes out of it. And so, but again, that came with trying to force it and trying to make it fit and trying to make it do something that's just not going to do at this time of year, and thus stressing myself out even more. But, like I said, it took me a little bit to get here. I'm glad I finally got to that realization. I think the goal is for all of us to get to those realizations as quickly as possible, in as painless an experience as possible that doesn't cost us our sanity or our whole business. So what would you like to end with? Is there anything that you have going on? Is there any upcoming events or anything that you'd like to invite people to, or, closing words?
No, I mean, I think the closing words are really recognize if you need help, to your point about planning, look at where you are, we're now entering third quarter. Financially, where are you? Where do you want to be? How can you get there? Do you need help getting there?
Yep.
And ask for help. And this applies to any of my clients who are business owners, entrepreneurs, or who are still, employees. Right now, I'm getting a lot of response from people who are worried that they won't have jobs. They're worried about, being downsized. I'm old enough to know there is life after being downsized, and, save some money, go on a trip, like come back, get back to work. Like it, the world will continue to rotate. But it is, when things like this happen, provides opportunity. I always say, like, whenever there's crisis, there's a lot of opportunity. A lot of people made a lot of money during that pandemic. A lot of new industries popped up, and now we're seeing I don't want to call it a new world order, but we're definitely seeing some shifts in the way this country is being managed, and that's affecting the rest of the world.
I really tried to fix the face with that one, but it didn't work. I could tell. I was like,
yeah,
no, face gave it away. Never mind.
So there will be a lot of opportunity popping up. This is the time to really be creative and think through how you're going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, all of us have a strength. We just, sometimes it takes us a little longer to remember it. And to your point, downsizing can be survived. I think right before I started the business, that was my 5th layoff. And that was the one where I was like, okay. I mean, while I clearly already known that I'm replaceable because I've been laid off numerous times, or, I'm like, well, this is it. I'm done being an employee where somebody can tell me, I'm great, but at the same time, that same day, hey, we're cutting back, and this time it's you. So I was like, I'm going to start a business. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to figure it out. I got a couple months, and the new year is coming, and so I will walk into the new year with that idea. I don't recommend that be the way that everybody does it. Planning sounds like a great idea. I did not. So again, I got some stories, but I also know my strengths, and I know that I do pretty well. Not winging it, but being able to jump in and pivot really quickly. So, it is survivable. I know in this current state of things, it seems harder than it might have been 20 years ago. And in some ways it might be, but there's also way more technology than there was 20 years ago. There's so many other things that have happened as well. And so, there's always that ebb and flow. All of us have talents. All of us have skills. It's just a matter of sometimes thinking outside of the box. Ask people around you what they think your skills and talent are, because that's what I did. And that's what helped me decide what the business was going to start out being, was asking those around me for the advice that I couldn't give myself in that moment. So, There is help out there. If you need help, whether it's career coaching or business coaching, you have amazing people like Kaaryn Nailor. If you need some support when it comes to the technical back end of your business, you have me and the SVS team. So there is support out there, between the two of us or outside of us. It's just a matter of finding the right fit for you and your life or your business. So if you've missed the live of this, please catch us on the replay and just put hashtag replay in the comments. Feel free to tag me or Kaaryn if you have any questions or have any follow-ups that you need. But otherwise, happy Thursday, or as I like to call it, Friday Eve. And it's 10:47 here, and same for Kaaryn, at about 1 p.m. As far as I'm concerned, it's Friday. So that's just the way my brain works. And so have an amazing rest of the summer. Stay cool. If you don't have AC, phone a friend and go and intrude on their property and see if you get some of their cool air, because we all deserve it. But again, thank you so much, Kaaryn. I know we went over, but it was a really good conversation. So I look forward to the next one.
Thanks, Janisha. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.